Hi, I'm Jake, and we're out at the Pyramid on June 24th in the morning, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how the grapes have fared after the big rainstorm we had a couple of weeks ago, and specifically I'm going to show you what something called Shatter looks like. So come over here and we'll check out some grapes. So everything out here at the Pyramid is Cabernet Sauvignon. It's about a 23-acre vineyard, and it's really steeply sloped and has a bunch of little nooks and crannies and peaks and valleys. So picking it and farming it is tricky, and the grapes are in different stages of development at a given time of year. So right now, what I'm going to try to show you is a combination of what happens when the grapes flower and then what happens when they set. And set is when the flowers turn into berries. So I'm going to pull some leaves out of here just to give you an idea, just so we can see things. And you can see, well, as I'm pulling the leaves out, that a bunch of stuff is falling on the ground. And that is the remnants, the burned up remnants of the flowers. Okay, so this is more heavily exposed than we'd want this, but we'll just do it for the sake of illustration here. Okay, so like right here, this tiny little cluster of grapes, can you get that? That is, you can see the remnants of flowers on it. And then these little tiny balls here are actually the little grapes. And I wanted to show you a flower cluster. See that? That there is actually, that's not in full bloom, but you can see a lot of the remnants of the flowers on it. So each of those little tiny flowers, each of these little tiny flowers should form a grape. But what happens is, before these little balls that you see now, which are the grapes, are formed, those are just delicate flowers like any other flowers, except even smaller. And if it rains like crazy when the vines are in flower, like look at this. Here's a perfect example, okay? These are flowers. Those are flowers, all right? So when it rains, and a vine is in flower like that, a vine is in bloom like that, it just destroys those flowers. The water just ruins those flowers, and the berries don't get a chance to form. So check out this bunch. What you get is, instead of a bunch where everything is uniform, let me see if I can even find one of those, which I can't. There aren't even good bunches here to show you. You end up with a bunch that has what's called shatter. So I strip all this stuff away, and what I end up with is a very few berries on a big bunch of grapes. This isn't the worst example of shatter there is. But see all that stuff falling out? That's all stuff that was potentially berries forming. And what you end up with is this very, very loose cluster. Look at this. This is even worse. I mean, there's almost nothing on these. That is a more completely formed bunch. See, it was behind the others. So the flowers on this were still closed up when it was raining, and they were safe. The berries are smaller, but they're also more uniformly formed. Let's go down here and look at some more stuff. So here's a really good example of shatter, unfortunately. You can see all this brown stuff in here. And that's all the flowers that just got trashed and didn't turn into grapes. And then these big grapes here. And there are just so many voids in this bunch. Now look, I'm just going to kind of knock this with my hand, and all that stuff falls away. And that's what you're left with. So you'll have the same number of clusters, but what you end up with is, you know, instead of having, say, 50 or 100 grapes on a cluster, you've got 20 or 25. Very, very light clusters. Not necessarily bad for quality, but pretty difficult from the point of view of quantity and trying to make a living farming. Now let's go see if I can find a bunch of grapes that's actually in good shape out here to show you the difference. See, so here's a shattered cluster. Let me take that, and here's a healthy one. So get a good shot of that, get a good look at that. You can see this one here has these big berries on it, these big fully formed berries on it. It's got these little tiny things that are way behind that, and then it's just got tons of voids. And then this one here, you've got pretty good uniform size on the berries and pretty good uniform formation too. So That's a shattered bunch of grapes. That's a healthy bunch of grapes. We'll come back in a couple of weeks and see how things look.